All right. Well, ciao ragazzi. I should start that way. Ciao ragazzi. We are so glad that you guys are here listening to us. Welcome to the Sal-E-Boys podcast network. This is our first ever podcast. So I don't know if anybody in here is a professional podcaster. Do you have any? All right. So bear with us a little bit. We might make some mistakes, but it's all right. I promise it's going to be worth it. We're going to have a lot of fun tonight. I do want to start off introducing everybody. We'll start with the man of the hour. We'll start off with my dad, Sal LaRossi. We have we have Andre LaRossi.
What's up?
And then we have my mom, Michele LaRossi. Okay.
So this is 50% of the kids.
Yeah. So we are their offsprings, me and Andre, and then we have two others. We have our older sister, Geneva, who lives in Carolina. She will she'll be a special guest as many times as she can. She's a busy person though. She's a lawyer out there. Starting up her own practice. We're all very proud of you, Geneva. You're going to be one of our first listeners. And then we also have our older brother, Carlo, who is not here tonight. But you guys are going to see him. He's a big sports guy. So whenever we talk sports, he's going to be here. So this first podcast, we're going to talk about the story of Sal-E-Boys. We're going to start off talking about an overview of what Sal-E-Boys is, because we know not all you guys have ever heard of it. And then we're going to get back into the roots of my dad and learn a little bit about his uprising or upbringing? Upbringing. And because these are all stories that I've never heard and we've never heard. And so I'm excited to just sit down with my dad, have a glass of wine, I'm drinking coffee, and just get to learn a little bit about him. So to get off, let's start off with this. We have some listeners. We have some listeners already in Germany and the UK. They don't know what Sal-E-Boys is. So, Dad, I'm going to throw this one to you. What is Sal-E-Boys Pizza?
Sal-E-Boys Pizzeria is a neighborhood, hole-in-the-wall pizza shop. Strictly takeout. In the old days, we had delivery as well. When we first started, we had tables, seating for 22. But then in '87, we evolved to delivery and takeout. And then in 2007, we became strictly takeout.
Okay. And people are probably thinking, why are they doing a podcast about a guy who started a pizza joint? It's crazy. The city of Rio Rancho was almost I don't know. They called my dad the king of Southern Boulevard. The pizzeria meant so much to the area that we lived in. So it's not just a pizza place to our community. It's a really big deal. And this year in 2020, my dad had the opportunity to retire. And so we actually, or I shouldn't say we, he actually closed down the business this year. And so it's a big time. It's kind of
life adjustment.
Yeah, like a little bit of a roller coaster. It's ups and downs and all that stuff. But how do you feel about the retirement? You feel pretty good about it?
Yeah, I'm so happy that we were able to have a successful business for all those years. We had provided enough for our family, provided enough for all four of my children to go to college, provided enough to have a nice roof over our heads, and it also provided me the opportunity to work in my town, live in my town, and play in my town. I basically worked in my backyard, so it was a really, really amazing experience for me.
Yeah, and one of the most amazing experiences is when we closed about a month ago. So many of your former employees reached out to you. Yeah. That to me was one of the coolest things to see.
Well, there was a big Facebook post, and then there was a newspaper article. So then, that's what happened. They just started contacting him through Facebook or calling, just messaging.
Phone calls, text messages, Messenger. I just received a card yesterday from Florida. Mm-hmm. People thanking me, customers, employees, for touching their lives, which I had no idea I touched that many lives.
And that's crazy. That you never would have thought you've impacted so many people by giving them letting them work through their high school days and
13-year-olds, 14-year-olds, 15-year-olds, all the way up.
Yeah.
You know? Some people worked for me 12 years and started out with me as a little kid. His remark on the message was, thank you for teaching me work ethic. I'm going to take it to the grave with me.
That's
You know?
awesome.
Yeah, it was really, really
That's
touching.
Well, that's funny because it's one of those things where people don't usually go into a pizzeria thinking, "Oh, I'm going to do this to touch people's lives." You want to make pizza, and that's a good career.
Right.
You want
You know,
to
usually, yeah.
Yeah.
But it's super cool that you have that kind of unintended.
Yeah, you know what? I knew it wasn't paradise. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? And these were first-time jobs, and I try to make it as fun as possible. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We try to have a good time. We had long hours, 7 days a week. A short day was 12 hours. So I try to have as much fun as possible. I used to nickname everyone. And, you know, I gave everybody a special name and try to work with the guys. I always worked with them. I felt if I was going to be there, I was going to work the line with the guys.
Yeah.
I wasn't just going to be the manager that dictated what to do. So, and that's it worked for us.
Yeah, that's a good form of leadership.
You know,
too.
I have one child. You know, I didn't even know. He reached out to me saying he came from a broken home. He had a horrible home life. He called every single day.
Which you didn't know anything about.
I didn't know. I didn't know this.
You
He
heard
was
this
really
in the
young.
story, yeah.
I heard, you know, he reached out to me after we closed, and he's like, "You have no idea. You know, I called every day until you gave me an opportunity to work." He was so young. He folded boxes and pulled weeds, but I touched his life. He said we took him in his family. We became his home life. And now he's doing
very
okay. He's very
successful.
successful, doing okay. He invited me to eat, come visit him, stay at his home, eat with his family, you know.
No, he's a manager of a big
Right,
resort.
he runs a big resort. He wants me to play golf, which I don't do. You know,
Oh, look at
Yeah, did he say he's gonna?
and he wants
take
me to
your kid?
stay there, and
Yeah.
you know, and that's very, you know, very special to me.
Yeah, that's.
And
a
I've
great
had
way to-
many stories.
He
like
has
that.
police chiefs and
Yeah.
bank managers,
Bank
president.
president.
Firemen. We were at dinner
Yeah.
not that long ago. Guy came up to us with a small kid, and he's like, "Look, I just want to thank you so much."
Yeah, he's getting ready to
He's
retire.
retiring from the fire
Snot-nosed kid, right behind the ear, and now he's retiring from, as you know, with high-ranking fire department.
And he had small kids with him, and he's like,
and
"I
he's
just
thanking me,
yeah."
because you gave him his first high school
and I
job.
kicked his butt into shape. You know, good old days.
Yeah, that's a great. So that's why we're doing this, is because to us and to, I would like to think our community, it's not just a pizzeria. It was really a part of the city, and it made such an impact on everybody's lives. I mean, our friends, even just being able to come over for dinner, they knew they were going to have pizza, and they would get always excited. Every Super Bowl, every big football game, the party was here because they loved being around our family, and they knew Sal-E-Boys was going to be here.
I mean, when we opened, the city was maybe 12,000
Right.
people.
I was gonna say
It was
that
so
was
small.
big.
Well,
He was the
so
first
small.
one here.
You have to go back to the
Yeah.
beginning because the town that we live in
So as
is
the business
minuscule.
grew, the city grew, so we
Right.
grew together.
Yeah, that's beautiful. So, okay, so back to the beginning. You said it. So now let's go back to the beginning. This is what I'm really excited for, because I don't know a whole lot about your childhood. You grew up, both my parents grew up in Brooklyn, New York, which has the clout to be like the coolest city in the country. So unfortunately, you guys had to move here. But tell me a little bit about growing up in Brooklyn, and like how did it kind of make you the person that you are? Like, you know, Jay-Z, he was born in Brooklyn, and he it just kind of helped him become who he is. Right?
Yeah.
Jay-Z's from Brooklyn? I would think. Where's
Yeah.
Jay-Z from?
I think he is from Brooklyn.
I'm pretty sure he's from the Bronx.
He might be from the Bronx, but
But listen,
there's a lot of people from Brooklyn
There's
that
an
give
old
credit
saying.
to Brooklyn.
there's an old saying: you can take the kid out of Brooklyn, but you can't take the Brooklyn out of the kid.
Yeah, that's
Like once it's there,
yeah.
it's there.
They don't say that about Rio Rancho.
No, they
Yes.
so tell me a little bit about growing up in Brooklyn. Where'd you live? What area? I know they have little sub areas. Was it
So we grew up in the Bensonhurst area of Brooklyn, and it's just on the cusp of Coney Island.
okay?
So I barely was on the borderline of Coney Island and Bensonhurst. And we moved into the house that we left when we came here when I was 3 years old. When my parents migrated from Italy, we lived in my grandparents' home. And my dad worked 7 days a week. And after about 6 years in America, he was able to buy a house in Bay 49th Street. on Cropsey Avenue, and I was 3 years old at the
It
time.
was a brand new house.
It was a brand new 3-story.
Wow.
And his father was a barber.
My
you
father
know
was a
that.
barber.
Right.
He worked in Manhattan.
Like,
He worked
you're
7 days a week.
Working for peanuts, basically.
I mean,
He
he
saved
works 5 days a week in Manhattan and went to the country clubs in Long Island to cut hair on the weekends. And he was able to buy a home, brand new. And I grew up from there, from 3 years old all the way to 16 until we moved here. So it was a predominantly Italian neighborhood, mostly first and second generation. But it was also multicultural. You know what I mean?
Pretty diverse.
There was a mix.
Well, he worked for the Korean guy. On
Yeah,
the corner,
one of my first jobs was at the milk farm, which is a small grocery store. He was a Korean guy, Mr. Sung. You know, so it was a nice mix of cultures. But you know, I went to a private school, a Catholic school, all the way from kindergarten all the way to 8th grade. So there were 2 classes, 1 and 2. So most of us.
That's what they call the class. 1.
1, 1, 2, 2, 1, 2, 2, 2, 3, 2. So I mean, you go to school with the same kids for 9 years.
Yeah.
You're gonna develop lifelong relationships, no matter what happens. You know what I mean? So my closest friends today are from my elementary school days. We still talk all the
That's
time.
amazing.
I spoke to 2 of them. Anthony LaCourse, Tommy Gage. I spoke to 2 of them today.
What a name, Tommy Gage.
Tommy Gage, Anthony LaCourse. I mean, you know, Sal Marinello. They were all, you know, Tommy was second generation, but Sal and Anthony were first generation from Sicily. And, you know, we developed this bond. And,
This
you
not
know.
able to speak English.
Yeah,
now.
Right, I know, yeah.
And we speak English, but we had the crew, you know what I mean? We had the hangouts, and, you know, we enjoyed life, you know? It wasn't a bad neighborhood, but you got to remember, New York in the 70s, period, wasn't that hot.
Yeah,
The whole city was not that great.
And that's why people were looking to jump ship.
Right.
So, you know,
Which
you
we'll get
say,
to.
how did it change my life, you know? Some people say I'm always look mad, I always look
Yeah.
sad, always this. I mean, that's how I grew up. You had to be vigilant. You had to have a street face.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You always had to be looking, you know, watching your back, because
You never know.
It wasn't great.
So was there, because like where we live, there's no walkability, but where you live, everything was walking. You would walk to Coney Island. So was there ever like, I'm in fear? Like if I'm walking from one place to the other, do I have a fear of like, I might get?
I never felt fearful, but we were always vigilant. Even if we were a gang
No,
of
we were
guys.
taught to always be.
Yeah. Well, we did. We
watched.
walked everywhere. We took mass transit if we need to go to the city. But I always walked to school every day. I walked home every day without my parents, without my mom, without my dad. It was a group of kids. And then even high school. I walked to high school, walked back. And then we hung out. We hung out all over the neighborhood every day, every night. 10 degrees, 20 degrees, 90 degrees. We were always out. You know?
And when you guys were hanging out, you guys were only doing good, nice, wholesome things?
Yeah, smoking cigarettes, drinking a quart of beer. We do what every 13-year-old does.
Oh,
Yeah.
I don't think 13-year-old big kids drink quarter.
Brooklyn, 13-year-old call you drink Colt 45 or Old English 800.
So I want to, Mom, you're also from Brooklyn.
Yes.
So let's
Very
give.
similar neighborhood.
That's great.
Literally 3 train stops away, if you know what that means.
Mhm.
You know, there's a train.
And
It
they
stops
stop,
here,
yeah.
it stops here.
Yeah.
We're not in the city, Mom.
So, yeah, but I moved here much younger. I was,
Yeah. So you didn't really experience.
No, I was not a teenager.
You weren't drinking beer at 13, and you.
Mom
Wow.
was 10 when she moved.
No, I maybe smoked a cigarette or two, but I drank beer. I was 10 when I moved here.
Okay.
so.
So you talk about your shenanigans. This is a story I do know. It's one of my favorite. And we mentioned his name earlier, Anthony LaCourse.
It's LaCourse.
LaCourse. Sorry, Anthony. Could you please tell our listeners the story about how you guys all got in trouble that night? I believe you were throwing.
Well, Tommy was there too. There was a bunch of us, but okay. So after school, we hung out, and I'm not going to mention any names, but one of the crew, the father, rented a storefront for us. So we had our own club. I mean, we're talking 13, 14, 15-year-old kids. And we have our own private social club on Hallway Avenue. Okay?
That sounds like a movie.
And we had pool tables and pinball and video games and TVs and couches. I mean, and we hung out there. So it's a tradition in Brooklyn. I don't know if they still do it. On Halloween, when you hit a certain age, you don't go trick-or-treating anymore. You go egging. And you egg people's houses, and you egg their cars, and you egg other groups of kids.
So basically, it's the trick part of the trick.
So you might egg another hangout. You know what I mean? You go for another group of guys, and you egg them, they egg you. So you buy crates of eggs. I mean, crates and crates.
Like more than 36.
Yeah. I mean, there's big boxes. I'm talking about big boxes of eggs.
Like wholesale. Like.
So we chip in, we buy all these eggs. Well, this particular Halloween, it rained and rained and rained, and we got rained out. It was, when it rains, it rains.
Yeah.
Like that. So we got rained out. So Halloween comes and goes, and we have all these eggs. So we're hanging out at the Club de Cuisine on Hallway Avenue after school, and we start egging the city buses, the B64. And we start throwing eggs at the buses, and throwing eggs at the buses, and throwing eggs. And, a couple hours go by, and another bus comes by, and it's a double park car, so he kind of stops. And one of the guys goes up to the bus driver. He had the window open because it was a beautiful autumn day, and eggs him right in his chest. Okay? That wasn't good. Okay? Couple, maybe 20 minutes later, another bus comes, we egg, and 3 cars come from both directions on the avenue.
3 police cars.
Yeah, it's unmarked.
Oh.
Unmarked. Detectives, undercover. It's a 2-way street. They come from both sides, weapons drawn, hands up, everybody stop, nobody move. So who walks on the roof of the club? Who goes to the basement of the club? Who goes left? Who goes right? Everybody some people freeze. Of course, I was one of the ones that got pinched. Tommy was one of the ones that got pinched. Anthony was one of the ones that got pinched, and a few others. So they take us to Coney Island. These are the transit police, mind you. They take us to Coney Island, and
Do you get booked?
they put us in a big cell.
Did you get your fingerprints and all that?
Yeah, they did everything. We got JD cards, YD cards, whatever it's called. Okay, juvenile delinquent card. I still have it in the file. I still have it in my office. So a remembrance of my good times in Brooklyn. But so we're all in the cell. Can I see your ID? Can I see your ID? Can you see? You don't drive till you're 17 in New York. Nobody has ID. I have a bus pass. Anthony has a bus pass. We have transit passes. And then Anthony pulls out a test paper. He's like, here's my name on a test paper. Anthony LaCourse. What school do you go to? Brooklyn Academy. Where do you go? Brooklyn Academy. Where do you go? Brooklyn Academy. Where do you go? Bishop Ford. You go to Severian. These are all top schools.
Private schools.
Private schools, Catholic schools, all top. And the cop starts freaking out. What the hell's wrong with you people? You come from good families. You have good education. I can't believe you're going to get in trouble over freaking eggs, this and that. So anyway, they give us the JD cards, and they call our parents. My mom doesn't speak English. She doesn't drive. So I'm stuck there. I wind up ultimately going home with Tommy's mom. Okay? And she wanted Tommy taking her home. But before that, Anthony LaCourse's mom comes. Now, she was a tough woman. She ran a dress factory on Bay 49, the block we lived on. She ran a dress factory. They called it sweatshops back then. And
There was no air conditioning.
you can hear her from down the block screaming at the ladies. Hurry up! Make the dresses, make the dresses. And she walks in with a pillow. And she's like talking to the police officers. I don't want to know more. You keep over here. And she throws the pillow at him in the cell. And says, I'm not taking him home. Leave him here. And, I left Anthony when I was 16. He had some really, really tough times, but he's basically a saint now.
Yeah.
He's became born again, and, seen the error of his ways, and he's just a wonderful family man.
Wonderful.
A very
And your
dear
dad
friend.
literally spent 1 hour on the phone with him. He's coming in October.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, he's
Awesome.
coming to visit me in October.
Oh, man, I love that story.
How did he get out of jail? Did he ever? Who took him
Well,
out?
I guess eventually the cop convinced his mother that she had to take
Mo brings a pillow to the
Yeah.
jail
Well,
cell.
she brought the pillow.
In the
I don't
meantime-
want to know more. They spoke on Brooklyn. I don't want to know more. You keep here. She put a pillow at him.
In the meantime, Dad had convinced Nana, that's his grandmother.
Oh,
Nana,
yeah.
convinced her not to say anything to the father.
So I told Mom, I said, Mom, you can't say nothing to Dad. Mom, don't say nothing to Dad. Mom, don't say nothing
So
to
she
Dad.
didn't say nothing.
Because my dad liked the belt. He loved leather. He loved leather in my ass. But he,
But the
So,
neighborhood
the
barber
neighborhood
shop-
barber, the neighborhood barber
So
down
the
the
whole
block,
thing goes
see the whole
down.
thing.
Ah.
It calls my father in Manhattan to tell him, look, they're arresting your son. They're taking him to jail. So Nuno comes home and he starts chasing me around the dining room table. And I'm like, what the hell? What are you chasing me for? I know what happened. I'm looking at Nana. I'm looking at my mom saying, I thought you weren't going to talk. She's like, I didn't say nothing. I didn't say that. I'm like, what the hell? And I caught a beat.
Oh, man,
I
that's
caught a beat with the belt. But that's, I used to get a lot of beats. I deserve a lot of beatings with the belt.
Although, yeah, I bet some of them were deserved. Some of them
Yeah.
So that's a perfect transition because on my list of what I want to talk about tonight is Nana and Nuno. So you're an entrepreneur. Really, your idol, the guy, your dad was also an entrepreneur.
Yes.
And
Yes.
so tell me a little bit. So you would be classified as first generation. Your dad, our Nuno, moved from Sicily
Yeah.
to New York.
He wasn't even.
Vizzini. Yeah.
Nana, your grandmother, went to Italy. She was on a boat, went to Italy to marry him because they wrote letters together. They did a
It was
correspondence.
arranged marriage with letter
Basically.
writing.
Crazy.
She went on the boat with her brother. He took her there to get married. They went on a honeymoon. She came home with no husband because he had to stay there. He was there for 6
He had to get
months
his papers.
to
6
wait
months.
till they get his
Wow.
papers.
Came to America, started cutting hair, and then in '72, he opened up his own barbershop right in the Garment Center, 38th to 7th
I know,
Avenue.
such an amazing
The
location.
heart of New York.
Yeah, that is
The
amazing.
best. That place is
Like the
still there
Garment
today.
District, yeah, really.
Yeah, it is.
How
From
long,
'72 today, still there.
how long was Nana in America before she went back? Not very
Nana came in '57. She went back in '60, so she was here 3 years, and then she went back to marry Nono, and then he came, and then in '72. So really, yeah, my father was an entrepreneur.
Yeah,
he was living the American dream, and that might have rubbed off on me because I used to go shine shoes for him, summertime and on Saturdays. And I
You
did well.
shined shoes, you sold newspapers.
Well,
you
I sold me
shoveled
Anthony
snow.
LaCourse. So Anthony LaCourse had a paper route.
Back to Anthony.
It always goes back to Anthony LaCourse. Anthony LaCourse had a paper route. But so you got to remember, Anthony's the youngest of 4 children. So he was already a little bit more acclimated than me
Okay.
because he already had 3 older
He's seen it
siblings,
already. He
even
modeled
though
it.
they were from Sicily. So he was already
And he's the
acclimated.
young.
I'm the oldest.
So
So when I went to school, I looked at the ceiling all day because I didn't understand the language. He already had older siblings, so he was already, he spoke English. But anyway, he owned the paper route. And he says, you want to be my partner? He already had established. And I says, yeah, how much is the buy-in? $50. Okay, so I gave him $50 and we became partners. And then he's like, all right, now there's 2 of us. We got to double the business. We got to go solicit. I said, what's solicit mean? I never knew what solicit mean. He said, we got to go solicit more business. So we spent all week knocking on doors, trying to get
Asking
more customers. And we did. And we built it up to like a lot. I mean, it was close to 200 papers at one time. And we used to use a shopping cart. I mean, we had one building. We had a building, so, we took the elevator, so that kind of cheated. We had a lot of customers in that building. But, here's the thing. So we had a built-in clientele. When it snowed, we got to shovel their snow. Because all the sidewalks had to get shoveled.
Yeah, that's true.
When the plows came, their cars got buried. So we used to charge $50 back in the 70s to unbury a car.
Oh my gosh.
Because, when it was a big snowstorm, like
your car got
like the
Yeah.
blizzard of '78, oh my God, that car was buried. And it was all iced up. So you had to chip at it. And then in the summertime, we would pull their weeds. Whoever had a little lawn, we would do their lawn. So we had 3 businesses, really, instead of 1.
Yeah,
So that was really my first taste of entrepreneurship.
that's awesome.
You know.
That's great. I didn't know that. I had no idea that was his first.
Yeah,
show.
we did that. But I owe it all to Anthony. Anthony was always really
And you
nice
mentioned
guy.
that. So Nana moved here. They didn't know English.
No.
So then you were taught your first language, from my understanding, was Italian.
It wasn't
Or
even
Sicilian.
Italian. It wasn't even, it was Vietnamese. It was the language of the town.
Dialect.
The dialect of the town, Vizzini. Very specific. And that's what the whole family spoke. And then it became the Vizzini,
Broken English.
English kind of language.
Mashed up.
Which I've seen your
English.
report cards. Nana has them. She showed it to me. If I didn't know the primary language in the country, I probably would have the same grades as you.
Yeah, there was something. I had to go to summer school every freaking summer. I was like, I couldn't believe I passed. Oh, I passed. It was a big deal. I got promoted to the next grade. Those cards were horrible. I was like, I didn't speak English. I didn't know what the hell was going on.
That's amazing.
I mean, everybody was bringing peanut butter and jelly, and I was bringing a loaf of bread with onion and olives. I was like, Ma, they don't eat a loaf of Italian bread with onion and olives for lunch. They eat peanut butter and jelly. So I got butter and jelly. That was the closest we could get to peanut butter.
Peanut butter
was?
Yeah, they don't have that over there.
They don't have peanut butter.
I don't think Nutella made it.
I don't think
that
that Nutella either.
Yeah.
I think they did, but I went.
They didn't make it
to
to it.
but they didn't make it here.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was I was a shitty student.
Okay, so I want to talk about the move to Rio Rancho, but since we're still in Brooklyn, tell me about your favorite pizzeria.
We lived at my grandmother's house on Graves Avenue.
Because you were how old when you moved to the other
I was 3 years old. We moved to Bay 49.
Okay,
So we originally lived on Bad Six.
So by 3 years old, you already had a favorite pizzeria?
Yeah.
That's how you know it was meant to be.
On Avenue U. You got to remember, my mom's life was wake up, take stuff out of the freezer, put me in the carriage, and go to my grandmother's house.
Right.
That was it.
So even though you
For
had
many
moved,
years.
you were back.
Even though we
every day.
moved away, we always went there every day. But there was a pizzeria on West 6th and Avenue U, Frank's Pizzeria. Husband and wife operation. And he made the most amazing Sicilian, he made the most amazing pizza. But I think what I liked most about it, when I went there, he used to call me Turito. Turito, what are you doing? Now, Turito, you know what that is?
No, what does that mean?
That's the nickname for Salvatore.
Oh.
So everybody who's
Who has
called
the
Salvatore,
Which there's
his
a lot
nickname is Turito. Like Frank is Chichu.
They have a standard nickname.
They have a
Yeah,
standard
that's why.
nickname for every single name. You know, Josephine is Papuzza, Pepina. So
I had no idea.
yeah,
I had no idea.
So my nickname was Turito.
Torito.
Turito. So he used to call me Turito. So Nana, when we moved to Bay 49, there was other pizzerias in the neighborhood. She told me the story because I would take you to the other ones because they were convenient. Close. I was like, no, I want to go to the one that calls me Turito. I want to go to the one that calls me Turito. At a young age.
Yeah.
I could eat pizza every day. For the longest time, I ate pizza every day. Mom used to come home. Mom would say, how many slices did you have today? I only had a half a pie today, 4 slices.
And he tried to be off. He's like, you don't understand that first pizza
Comes
coming
in
out of the
morning.
oven, the smell.
But that's where I fell in love with pizza.
Yeah.
You know?
And you
Nice
kept
pizza.
that. Well, clearly you
Well,
kept
that's
the
why
love
every
for-
time we go anywhere, we have to have
Yeah,
pizza.
that's- yeah.
Every,
That's-
Which
every
so
time.
that's when we.
Lifelong
I love
thing.
going to New York because we always make our rounds of pizza joints. We always go on Avenue U. Or
It's
Avenue U. I don't know if there's no pizza joints over there, but we always go to the restaurant.
Oh, Joseph's
Joseph.
Avenue.
Yeah, so,
But there is Pizza Park right next door.
okay.
But we always go to L&B.
L&B. That's what I was gonna say. So
Spumoni Garden.
we always go to Spumoni Garden. And Mom, you actually have a pretty cool story with L&B and the brand.
Yes.
So would you like to share that story?
Sure. My grandfather and grandmother and their children lived right across the street from the L&B location. And my grandfather was, what did he sell? He sold everything.
But he sold watermelons. He had a watermelon
He had
cart.
a watermelon cart.
Horse
But
and carriage.
he sold everything, but that, like, he would have seasons, and so when watermelon season come around, he would go sell watermelon. And, but he had a horse, and he had a wagon to sell his stuff. And this guy was selling spumoni. He was making spumoni, and my grandfather says, you gotta take the spumoni out, because then people will buy it. So my grandfather took him to go buy a horse, because the guy didn't know nothing about buying a horse. He took him to buy a horse. And if you know anything about L&B, the logo is a cart with the horse.
And the spumoni in the back. To this day, it's 75 years later.
The same logo.
Or 70, what is it, 70-something years.
I don't know, yeah.
It's over 70
That's one of my favorite stories, and it's one of my favorite pizza joints that we go to.
Look, I always tell you guys, there's no such thing as a bad pizza.
It's that's
always
good.
We'll say it. We'll wait later.
Everything's a little different.
Yeah.
Remember, there's no such thing as a bad pizza.
So we talked about your favorite pizza. Let's talk about the move. So we talked about Nano. What made them want to leave New York, Brooklyn, to go to the Southwest in Rio
Middle
Rancho?
of the desert.
Yeah,
This is
Rio
where
Rancho.
it gets super, super confusing. Okay, at 16, I don't care about nothing but hanging out. I'm hanging out with all my friends every day, every night, all the girls, at the Club de Cuisine, on the corner in the schoolyard. We're done playing ball and Skelly and all those
Childish games.
Yeah,
now they're just smoking cigarettes.
stick ball or wiffle ball, we're done. Now we're hanging out, smoking cigarettes, drinking beer. All I know is no came one day. They said, we're going away for the weekend. Really? You guys never went away in your whole life. They're going away. They're going away, my uncle and my aunt. And where do they go? They come to Rio Rancho, come to find out. That's all I know. 5 days later, they come back. Not even a week, 5 days, they come back and they say, we bought a house in Rio Rancho, New Mexico. Rio Rancho, where the hell is Rio Rancho, New Mexico? I never even heard of New Mexico, let alone Rio Rancho. I says, I don't think you can drink the water there. Why are we going there? It turns out that no. Well, really, Uncle Aldo, worked with Felix
Who was also a
Macagnano.
barber.
Mm-hmm.
Also
They're
a
all
barber.
barbers.
Worked with Felix Macagnano for 20 years, right by Macy's on Broadway. Felix had moved here in 72. So fast forward in 78, they came here for the weekend to see Felix, to get away, to see America, to explore, to whatever.
And pay a visit to an old friend.
They pay a visit. Well, they start looking at houses. They go visit mom and dad, grandpa and grandma, because grandpa had the iron shop on Bay 49, who moved here in 1975.
So they knew.
3 years prior.
So yeah, So when they were having coffee with Felix, the barber, they said, the Ferraro, that's the
iron worker.
I think he lives here too. And Felix says, yeah, he lives right around the corner. Let's go over there. So they go over there to have coffee.
They go visit grandma and grandpa, and grandma says, you want a house? My cousin has a house for sale. My cousin has a house for sale. Really? They go look at the house, 1 acre of land, on a corner lot, 135 trees, and they buy the house.
How much was the house? Do you remember?
It was 60. I know exactly how much it was. It was $63,000.
That's crazy.
And he did pretty well at the time. And boom, he bought the house. He comes back and he says, "We're moving. We're moving." What do you mean we're moving? How can we move? And he sold the shop, sold the house, and we moved. And I told him, I says, look, I wanted to go to an aviation school in Queens. When I used to go to Shea Stadium, and I went to Shea Stadium 15 times a season. I always used to pass the school on the 7 train in Queens. Take the 7 train to Shea. And I said, aviation school. I want to.
But he's fascinated with planes.
I'm fascinated with
planes.
And I wanted to be an airplane mechanic. You know what I mean? I was like, that's what I want to do. And I says, okay, I'll move, but as soon as I finish high school, I'm moving back. I have no intention.
Yeah, because
to
you were
stay.
16, so you had 2 more years.
So,
where you
but
go back.
really, I was on a 3-year accelerated program.
Oh, so
I would've
really, you were
graduated
so
one
close.
year.
Yeah, the bad grades went away. Then he got smart.
When I went to high school, I learned how to speak English, and I did okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I did okay.
I was saying, but that's one of those small world type of things.
Oh, it's-
Because you mentioned before 3 stops away,
Yeah.
and then you guys end up because you already moved to Brooklyn.
Yeah.
You already moved here.
I was here 10 years old.
And my father knew her father because he did the ironwork on the house when we bought the house in 1966.
Correct.
And so
Because he was right down the block.
And then also, like he said before, his mother would put him in the carriage to take him
Yeah.
walk to
So
her
he-
mother's house. So my
Grand-
father knew him.
Grandpa
So-
see me growing up.
Yeah.
'Cause I used to pass by the shop every single day. He used to see my mother.
didn't her grandfather sell you toys? as well?
Yeah, on 86th Street. We used to see him on 86th Street all the time.
And so that's just so great. Like you guys were 3
We're
stops away
destined
from
to be there.
Brooklyn,
Yeah.
and you guys had to come all the way to Rio Rancho to finally meet each other. And I think that's a story that we could tell at another time.
Yeah, I was gonna say let's
But
tease.
But that's
No,
how it
let's-
changes. Because I had no intentions of staying. I was going away.
Yeah.
I was going to finish school here and go away. So that's a whole nother story.
And that's what we'll tease that. So we'll pick up next week where Sal has his little bag and he's ready to go fly across the country to good old New Mexico, and then we'll get into your first or one of your first jobs working here and how you ended up buying the place that you were working, the pizza.
Okay.
So all right,
Sounds
that was fun. Thank you guys. If you want to reach out to us, you can contact us on Facebook.
Yeah, can they give us questions?
They can email us, or no, they could just DM us. It's all,
Oh,
the
DM.
DMs are wide open. So Instagram, you can go Sal-E-Boy Pod, Sal-E-Boy Podcast Network. Our username is Sal-E-Boy Pod, and then same thing with Facebook. Okay, the name is Sal-E-Boy Podcast Network, and then the username is Sal-E-Boy Pod. We would love for you guys to reach out to us. That would be awesome.
Yeah.
All right.
No holds barred. We're gonna.
Yeah,
do
that
it.
was good. Ciao.
Ciao, wait. I sent Michael to Italy for 6 months to study. He learned 2 words. Ciao ragazzi.
Ciao ragazzi. Ciao ragazzi.